wanted to get back into the Commanders. So it is week 2. Jason has already said it is a must-win game against the New York Giants.
Does anybody disagree?
I kind of do.
Why? Just because you're not expecting it?
Just because.
If you think, hold on, if you think they're getting to that 9-win mark, this is a must-win.
I guess it's just.
Or if you want them to get to the 9-win mark.
I do. I mean, I just want them to win as many as they can.
I just feel like it's kind of must-win because the opponent is in such disarray in the Giants, and Daniel Jones just can't get out of his own way.
Yeah.
And he's trying to come back from a major injury, and it's not looking good right now. Like, I feel like they have to take advantage of this situation.
Obviously.
At
And
home,
I'm not saying it's a
bad
must.
opponent.
Eric, I'm not saying it's a must-win because I think they're going to go to the playoffs. I don't think they are. I'm just saying it's a must-win because if they lose this, I don't think you can look on the schedule and be comfortable with any game.
Right. Well, that part is true.
That's true, but it's true even if you win. Like, here's the thing. We're going to lose games that we shouldn't, and we're going to beat a few teams that you don't think we
You are comfortable with one.
It always happens.
You're comfortable with Carolina. Beating Carolina.
Not
at
if they
home.
lose to the Giants. I wouldn't be.
Even if somehow the Commanders stub their toe and lose to the Giants, I'm comfortable in saying beating Carolina seems to be a no-brainer.
I'm picking us. I expect to win.
I am too.
But I also, because I'm not, believe me, I know we're a flawed team, but I just keep harkening back to when the Giants really gave up like 80 points that one year, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. Remember that?
Yeah.
In the first 2 weeks, they gave up 82 points.
Something like
They
that.
looked like the worst team ever.
It's horrendous.
Yeah. So,
But
I
don't think that's going to happen.
I'm not saying
with
that's the
this
trajectory
iteration
for
of the
this team.
Giants.
No, but I remember when Marty Schottenheimer was here and they started
Yeah.
out 0-5 and finished 8-8. I remember when Gibbs was here. Everybody does. And they started out 0-5 and finished 8-8. And then, they win the Super Bowl the next year? So I'm not saying we're going to win the Super Bowl next year, but you can have a rough start and figure it out a little bit.
Yeah, I just think you got to figure out against bad teams at home, especially your home opener.
I'll be disappointed if we lose. I'll be disappointed if we lose.
It will be a disappointing loss if that
100%,
happens.
100%.
Well, one of the things that jumped out at most of us, if not all of us, in the week 1 loss was, all right, offensively, it was the Jaden Daniels show running the ball. But what else did they have? Austin Ekler, when he touched the ball, looked pretty electric. He only had 2 carries for 10 yards. Also had 4 catches for 52 yards. That's a 13-yard average.
They're going to use him more. They're not dumb.
And we wanted to get into that. He was on with Grant and Danny. He's going to be on Grant and Danny's show all year long at 5 p.m. Here's some audio about Austin Ekler talking about whether he'll get more involved in the offense.
How do I get more Austin Ekler touches? Is it something, just stick aside, buddy, is it something in all sincerity where after a little while you might feel comfortable, maybe tugging on a sleeve of Cliff Kingsbury? I mean, like, I got some ingredients I would like to cook, please. Is there any time where you feel like that could happen?
Hey, well, after that one, I was just tired, so I needed a break.
Okay.
The thing is, look, we're getting a rhythm going. We'll see kind of how things play out. We got some playmakers on the field. We want to see some other guys, get the opportunity to make those as well. But when they come your way, you got to be ready for them. And on that play in particular, like, it's back to doing what I do. That's how I made a living in this league. First I was with Phillip Rivers, and so I caught a ton of balls. I've had a 970 or 97-yard season, 107 catch season. Like, I've made a living off of just turning check downs into chunk plays like that. So one thing you can look forward to is more of that.
I hope that's the case. I mean, he had 107 grabs in 2022, 70 back in 2021. I mean, he's a prolific pass catcher.
He had 92 in 2019.
I'd like to see an uptick in his carries too. I mean, 2
give him 5 to 7 instead of 2.
Seems like a perfect number.
Look, if he touched the ball 6 times, right? 6 times, and he had a total of, call it 67 yards, 65 yards, something like that.
He had 62 total yards.
Okay, 62. All right, well, double the touches.
Yeah,
and then he'll be over 100 total yards. He's going to be approaching that.
That'd be fantastic.
Here's what I'll be stunned. I'll be stunned if they don't give him the ball more, if they don't maybe even utilize B-Rob a little bit more in the passing game. He was flashing. I'll be stunned if they don't incorporate Terry more and make an emphasis of that.
Yeah. I was going to say, he's the guy who's got to touch the ball
and
more.
You're going to mock me?
Yeah.
I think Oz is going to bounce back and have an impact a little bit. Not nothing great. Not going to make SportsCenter top 10.
But more than one catch.
Yes,
for
he's going to
10
pop
yards.
a little bit more. He dropped one on the sideline. He had the bad penalty. He just never got into a rhythm passing the ball either, Jaden. I think Oz is going to.
And we
go
all-
better.
Jaden missed him. I don't know that was a drop.
Well, if you watch Benkert, he loved it. He thought it was a great throw.
If I'm Terry McLaurin, and I know he's the classiest guy ever. If I'm Terry McLaurin, after what happened in the first half, I'm going to go into Kingsbury's office and or Quinn's office and I'm going to demand more. I'm going to have a little bit of diva in me and say, look, I'm the best wideout on this roster
They know that.
by a lot. You got to pepper me with targets, and let's not wait until the second half for it to happen.
Well,
Let's
it was
do
the
from-
first pass. The storyline would have been different if the first pass, the second half,
Sure.
where he was open, was connected.
But I'm talking about from the first possession.
Sure.
He's got to be super involved in every possession.
But to get back to Ekler, and if you want to chime in, 800-636-1067. Do you want to see Ekler get more involved?
Yes.
I want to see him
I
run
think
the
it's
football
easy.
more than
Yes.
Brian Robinson. I'm going to probably be wrong with our bet because it looks like they believe Brian Robinson should be the workhorse. And maybe that's the case, but I thought it would be closer to a split share. So Brian Robinson started the game. He gets the first series. Then give Ekler a series running the football on first down. Because to me, Ekler is the better runner. He's definitely the better receiver, and it bears out in this game where he averaged 5 yards per carry. I know it was two carries. But Brian Robinson averaged 3.3 yards per carry. In their career, it's similar. Austin Ekler in his career averages 4.4 yards per carry compared to Brian Robinson's 4.
JP, there's
He's a
nobody-
better runner.
There's
So
nobody on the coaching staff that thinks that Brian Robinson is a more talented running back than Austin Eckler. They're managing Eckler's workload.
Maybe they're
Okay.
going to
touches.
They're going to ease him into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I think if
He's
you're
going to get more than two
if,
carries.
If
I
there's
would
a
think.
split of 14 total carries,
Yeah.
I would want half to go to Ekler.
Sure.
I think Robinson
Do
will
it.
run better. I don't think, and I'm not sure he had huge holes. I feel like all that pressure. I think our offensive line. I mean, no, they graded Coleman and beyond. They actually graded those guys fairly well.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I didn't feel like there were big holes.
I feel like he is a weapon in Ekler, and I would utilize him a lot more. Sure, the passing game, that's going to happen. Like you just heard him talk about it. Again, 800-636-1067. But give him the rock on first down on a couple occasions.
I don't disagree. I think he's going to be on
They
the
may
field a lot
sprinkle that
more.
in going forward.
I think,
There's no reason to hide
Kix
him.
is right. I think they're kind of just easing him in.
Right.
He's going to get more than 2
I mean,
carries
he's
this
a
week.
29-year-old running back coming off
Yeah.
an ankle sprain.
But he looks
a high
good.
ankle sprain.
But
He
he's
looks good
healthy.
now.
He's
But that
healthy.
dogged him through all of last year. So I understand why they're treading lightly early.
And by the way, he was still getting 12, 13, 14 carries a game, even with the bad ankle.
yeah.
So I'm not saying give him 13 carries a game, but you got to give him more than 2. You
So-
got to give him
right.
7 or 8.
So you know how you always hear about a high ankle sprain?
Yeah.
I've never, and they always say that's the hardest one to get rid of. My son's sprained ankle, I've never seen anything like it. They call it a grade 3 sprain from 7 or 8 inches up from his ankle.
Mm-hmm.
Purple it looks like it's as fat as your thigh.
Yeah.
Is that a high ankle sprain?
I don't know.
Is that the same thing? I mean, it's so swollen. It's not just the ankle; it goes up the
Yeah.
calf leg.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
It looks like an old
Does
man.
he have a fracture? Because I had that roughly a year ago.
I know
Remember
we
my
didn't
running
do it.
incident?
We didn't do an X-ray.
I didn't have an X-ray originally, and then a couple months later, my ankle was still killing me, and they did an X-ray, and I had a fracture.
Sounds like his ankle got pwned.
They
You
said
might
they
have-
don't think it's a fracture, and he can move all his toes and all his extremities and everything.
Rugby
But-
injury?
yeah. But it is. I mean, if that's a high ankle sprain, I understand why Austin Eckler struggled for a year.
Sure.
But
I
as
mean,
Jason said, he still played
He looked
all
great.
those games, and now it's a year
I mean,
later.
there's a reason that his yards per carry went from 4.5 in 2022 to 3.5 the year he suffered the high ankle sprain.
yeah. But it's
Like
certainly
it's a
affected him.
full yard difference.
He's got
But
plenty
he
of
looks,
life left
but
in
looks,
him.
he looks fine. I mean,
Yeah.
you saw
He
the
looks-
burst. Now
yeah.
he takes some big hits.
yeah,
He
does.
He got popped a few times, but that's because he's a smaller guy. I mean, he's 5'9".
And he's willing to mix it up as a blocker, which you know the team obviously
very good
loves.
blocker. Yeah, he's a good blocker
Yeah.
for his size.
So yeah, I would love to see Eckler's touches go up to 10 to 14.
I
this
think
week,
it's going to
if they
go
feel
up
like he
simply
can handle
because, look,
Yeah, double
I
him up.
don't think there's going to be another game. It's one game in. There's 16 games left. I don't think there's going to be another game where the quarterback has more carries than the rest of the runners combined.
Right.
So
Probably
Jaden
not.
had 16, and Ekler and Brian Robinson combined for 14.
There might be.
There could be.
I'm not willing to go that
But I'm
far.
going to guess Kingsbury wants
There might
to
be.
keep. He probably wants to keep Jaden's carries 8 to 10.
I'm sure
Somewhere
he
in
wants
that range.
to.
Let's keep him there.
But he's not going to care about that when he's getting flushed.
right.
You got to remember. So they're probably
If
going to
there's
be, especially
pressure
with this
and he
offensive line.
Tucks it and runs and gouges them for 20 yards and stays upright. It's not taking hellacious shots like he was at LSU. They're going to keep doing it.
Did you watch the somebody tweeted out the montage of all of his runs? Now, he had 16, right?
I've seen. I mean, I feel like I've seen most.
And
of
I
them.
started counting them, and I don't know if I messed up, and I didn't feel like going back to watch it again to see how many were designed runs versus scrambles. And like early on, it was mostly scrambles, and then they started running the design runs. My count, it was like 8 to 6, but it left off a couple runs. So I think designed runs were probably less than the scrambles, but there was definitely 5 or 6 minimum designed runs.
Well, then don't bet on the other.
Yeah,
don't
like
make your other wager because he's going to be flushed a ton, and he's going to probably run a lot of those times. Now, I hope he is able to gather himself and then make some throws on those plays.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think he's
obviously-
going to look at the film and see what a lot of these, ex-quarterbacks who put out stuff now and see, oh, I could have thrown right here to Ertz. I could have thrown right here
yeah,
to Terry
those guys
McLaurin.
are the coaches are telling him that.
Of course.
Remember, he played 2 quarters in the preseason. Preseason's a joke.
And he's a rookie.
Exactly.
All the rookies struggled.
Well, he struggled less than those other guys, in my opinion.
I think it's factual.
He didn't struggle
But-
fantasy-wise. He was the top 3 fantasy quarterback over the weekend. Top 3.
I knew
Not one,
that
not
would be
two.
cakes.
Well, that's his strength.
Can I baptize you as a? Are
I mean,
you
if Jaden
there?
keeps putting up lines like that, I might be ready for the Commander's holy water on my forehead. I could be ready. I'm vulnerable.
You are vulnerable.
I'm very susceptible.